discovered in the deep, when only bodies laid asleep. For the elemental creatures go about my table to and fro, that hurry from unmeasured mind to rant and rage in flood and wine. Yet he who treads in measured ways may surely barter gaze for gaze.
For W B Yeats, the supernatural world was always with him, and for much of his life he devoted himself to the idea that there was an ancient doctrine, a collective sacred knowledge, a universal religion of symbol and image and story that had been passed down through time.
I mean, most people talk about the beginnings of his interest being his experiences going to Sligo as a child and meeting people who, had second sight and, were sure that there were other beings in the woods.
There are fairy wraths, there are traditions, there is the whole construction of folk tales and fairy myth, which has been collected, by the way, by lots of people at this time.
And he saw the telling of tales about the landscape as a way of identifying his Irishness.
He was convinced that there had once been a world religion, and that world religion had been overrun by Christianity, rationalism, materialism in the modern world, and that there were still great pockets of this ancient world religion which were understood to be Celtic, but he felt actually were aspects of this more universal worldview. And therefore he saw revivalism as not only the revival of kind of Irish national identity, but revival of spirituality in the world.
Remember that Yeats at the end of the 19th century and the early 20th century was living in a time where there were a lot of people who were not as sure as we are that the material world is the only world there is.
And you're also getting a sense, I think, that there is a supernatural element in the world, but it's not being addressed by the churches, it's not being addressed by conventional religion.
Yeats is very much in that tradition of a poet seeking an alternative spirituality to the Christian Orthodox tradition in which he had grown up, which he felt was inadequate to meet the kind of challenge of this form of scientific and materialist reductionism.